kitchen and show you that you don't need to be a professional chef to cook or think like one. And today we're making homemade French onion soup. I love French onion soup. If it's on the menu for an appetizer, I order it almost 100% of the time. And I love making it during the colder months of the year. It stores really well in the fridge, and for a few months in the freezer, you can just pop it out and thaw it on the stove. I love it. And what I also love too is that you can control the sodium intake that you put in it. I'm just using a store-bought beef broth, but I did opt for the 50% less sodium. Most of them are 900 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium in 1 cup, and this one only has 440. And if you make your own beef broth or chicken broth, more power to you, because then you can control more of what you put in it. So what I also want to tell you though is I'm not only just making the French onion soup, I'm also serving it in an onion bowl. And I'm actually going to hollow out the onion and put the soup in it. So it's kind of cool. I got the idea from a place called Montera Grill, which is in Algonquin, Illinois. I was eating there with my husband, and of course it was on the menu for an appetizer, so that's what I ordered. So see how easy it is to hollow out an onion. Alright, so here's what I did to hollow out an onion. I'm actually first going to take off the top, and then just a little bit of the bottom, because remember, we don't want the soup to fall through, but we want it to be able to sit up straight like this with the soup in it. And then I'm going to just slowly and very gently peel off the outer layers of this. And then what I like to do, what I found is most easiest, is just to take an apple core. If you don't have an apple core, don't worry about it. You can slowly work it with a spoon. But I kind of like this, and I don't go all the way down. I just go down a little bit, and then I pull a little out. And I just keep doing this around. And the idea is we'll want a couple layers on the outside to still stay there, because that's where we want our soup to be, so it holds in our soup. And eventually I'm going to cut the top a little bit more, because of course we won't be able to get a piece of bread with this inside of it. Alright, so this is what it looks like after it's hollowed out. I've left a couple of layers, an hour later, and another one in there, and then I haven't really done much with the bottom of it, so we can actually just set it down. Now we have all these insides of the onions, so please use those. Don't just throw them away, because we're making French onion soup. Let's use those. And what I'm going to do is, not long before my soup is finished, I'm actually going to wrap this up in aluminum foil, stick it on a cookie sheet in the oven at about 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. I don't want this to be soft when I put my soup in, but I don't want it to be, you know, completely raw the way it is right now. So just about 10 minutes at 350. And that's it. Now we're going to start cutting up some onions. Alright, so now we're ready to cut up our onions for our French onion soup. And I'm going to use probably about, I got huge onions, I mean almost softball size onions, and you're going to want about 8 cups or so of onion. So I'm going to try and see what these 5 bring for me. You know, you can either eyeball it or you can actually measure it out. I may not need this much since I am doing my onion bowl and I'm using the insides of those onions. So let me show you how easy it is though to cut up an onion if you haven't did it before. And first off, I cut off each end. And then I'll cut it in half just like this. And then this allows you to remove the outer layer really easy. Well, it's supposed to be pretty easy at least. There we go. Here we go. Now we're working. And this will all be garbage. And again, the outer layer. Because if you actually cook with the outer layer, it is a little bit chewier. So you do want to take a couple of the first couple layers out of the onion itself before you start cutting it. And we'll throw these in the garbage. And then for French onion soup, what we want is thin slices. So we're just going to take it and just go as thin as we can. Don't rush it, just take your time. And it's just like that. Almost, you can see right through it. If you can see this, you can basically see my fingers in it. That's how thin you want it. So I'm just going to keep rocking out all of these onions, and from there I'm going to take them to the pan. Now let me show you, when you get a little bit lower so you don't nick your fingers, just turn it over like this. And then just keep going. Sometimes it's nice to do a rocking motion. Just keep the end of the blade on the cutting board and just rock back and forth. Just like that. Perfect. All right, here goes the rest. So now what we're doing is I got out a pan and I put a half a stick of butter along with a tablespoon of EVOO in there. Remember, it's a half a stick, not a half a cup. One time I did that and I was spooning out grease. I was wondering what the heck was going on. Now I'm going to grab my 8 cups of thinly sliced onions that we did earlier and just slowly put them in there. I know it looks like a lot, but it'll come down. You'll be amazed by how much it comes down by. And we're just going to stir those in and give it about 10 minutes or so with the lid over it until they're translucent. And at that time we're going to add a few more ingredients. So I'm just going to get these all stirred up. My heat is on about a medium-high heat. And you can come back in maybe after like 10 minutes and give them a good flip through. You know, so some of these that are on the top get down at the bottom. But you are putting a lid on it, so it's going to help hold the heat in there as well. Forget about those for 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. I'm going to take my lid off and stir my onions. Now, as you can see, the onions are kind of a little bit more translucent, a little bit more tender. Stir them around real good. From here, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of sugar and a half a teaspoon of salt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our heat up to a medium-high, at least a medium-high, and we're going to allow these onions to caramelize. And it's just bringing out all the natural sugars. It's going to take about 25-30 minutes for these to break down. And you want to make sure that you stir quite frequently, otherwise they're going to stick to the bottom and you don't want that to happen. And it's amazing. You won't see anything for the first 15-20 minutes, but once that 20-minute mark happens, these onions are going to start getting nice and brown and caramelized. And so we'll see you. I'm just going to kind of nurse these until they get that dark brown. So now while my onions are caramelizing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my beef broth. Remember, I got the 50% less sodium. And I'm actually going to put it into a pan and just warm it up just a little bit before I put it in, because we're going to end up whisking this beef broth into our onions here momentarily once they get to a walnut color. So I'm just going to kind of warm this through. That way it doesn't shock the onions so much. And this stuff I just bought, but if you want to make your own, go ahead. So this is a pretty simple process. Just go ahead and put it on. It doesn't need to be a roaring bubble, just bring it to a simmer. About 10 minutes or so on a medium-high. Alright, so now our onions have caramelized real well. It's been about 25 minutes or so. They look like this. Don't they look delicious? I could literally put this on a piece of bread and eat it. Yum. But what we're going to do is we're going to add about a tablespoon of flour, and this is just going to help thicken it up a little bit. And we're going to want to cook the flour for about, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 minutes or so. If you don't cook the flour out and you were just to put the stock in right away, it's going to taste real floury. I did just use an regular all-purpose flour. So we're just going to stir this around, because remember, our onions are still caramelizing. You really don't have to adjust the heat. And after this, we're going to take it off the heat for a couple of minutes and start putting in our stock and everything else that goes with it. Alright, so we've let the flour cook and we turned off our heat and let it sit for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to add a couple of ladlefuls, 2-3 ladlefuls of beef broth, and I'm going to whisk this in. And this is just going to kind of incorporate the liquids in with the onions, because the onions did get a little bit thick, you know, once we put in that flour. So we're just going to whisk this in, and while we're whisking, we can go ahead and turn back on the heat to about a medium-high, and just keep adding a little bit more till it gets kind of that consistency that you like, you know, where it's a little bit smoother. and just keep whisking. And then from here, we're gonna add the rest of the broth, the rest of the 8 cups of broth. So let's keep whisking here. That looks about good. And it's already starting to boil, so let me get this broth in here. Quickly, quickly, quickly. So we're gonna add this in. After this, we're gonna add a cup of dry white wine. And I actually picked a Sauvignon Blanc, a Château Saint Michel. If it comes in here, no? Maybe not. Okay, never mind then. Just take my word, I'll put it up on the website. It's a Sauvignon Blanc though, it's a good dry white wine. Again, I don't like to spend a lot of money on wines that I'm cooking with because you can get some fantastic wines for in between the $8 to $12. Oh, what the heck, what a little bit more splash, right? And if you have kids, don't worry about the wine and stuff. As it cooks, because we're gonna let this simmer for about an hour and a half, and as it cooks, it's gonna cook out that wine anyways. And then we're also gonna add about a half a cup of cognac, and I actually like this Hennessey cognac. It's fairly reasonable compared to some cognacs. It can kind of get a little bit on the spendier side. So just a quarter of a cup, and this really kind of gives it a signature flavor. And once you smell it, you'll kind of smell, you know, where kind of French onion soup, besides the onions, you know, where it kind of gets that smell from. So we're just gonna stir this up, and like I said, just let it sit for about an hour and a half, just to let all those flavors get together. And then at that point, we'll be ready to put them in our onion bowl, and along with our bread and our Gruyere cheese. Yum. All right, so I have my, our French onion soup is done, and I have my onion bowls that I actually put in the oven at 350 for about 10 minutes or so, just so they're not completely raw. And we're gonna go ahead and ladle in a little bit of our soup. Now remember, with these kinds of bowls compared to your crock pots and stuff, it's not gonna hold as much soup, so just be aware of that, which is good if you're serving a lot of people as well. Kind of, you know, a little goes a lot ways. And I am just gonna leave this aluminum foil down. It's gonna help catch any spillover so I don't make a huge mess on my cookie sheet. And then what I did is I just lightly toasted a baguette, and I'm gonna put that in there. You traditionally use a French bread, but since we are dealing with kind of like a smaller hole, I wanted to use a baguette. And then of course, last but not least, we're using my favorite cheese, Gruyere cheese. I just shredded up some cheese for this and just pile it on. It's gonna kind of melt in there. We're gonna stick this under the broiler on high until the cheese has fully melted and kind of gets a little bit bubbly brown and stuff. So that's it. That's how easy it is. It's not difficult and looks to impress as well. So this is going under the broiler literally for 2-3 minutes, and we're about ready to eat. Alright, so this is it. Our homemade French onion soup is finished. It is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to try it. It was really easy, and like I said, I love making soups at home because you can control what you put in it. And let me tell you this, what a showstopper this is gonna be. If you entertain a lot, this is a definite must on your next menu. And you see how easy it was? You can literally start it earlier in the day if they're coming over at night. And you know, if it sits for 5-6 hours, just add a little bit of water. That's all you need, you know, because of the evaporation. But other than that, it's good to go. So let's go ahead and try this French onion soup. I'm so excited. Of course, I love the cheese. And here, it just wants to come off, so I'm just gonna eat it. Yeah, let's try the soup. This is so good. This is absolutely my favorite soup during the cold winter months, and I know it's gonna be yours too. If you love French onion soup, you're gonna love this recipe. It's so good. This is what I'm having. I hope you're having the same. And join me again next time on Amateur Kitchen. See you later.